Well, hello, Jeff. It's been a while. It's been a while. You've been busy. You've been in Mexico, Miami, Los Angeles, Las Vegas. I've been in Chicago, Sacramento. By the way, I haven't talked to you since I went to Sacramento. What a town.
Yeah, that's awesome. We stay downtown in Sacramento, and
where do you guys stay when you're there? Because there's pilots in my hotel.
what hotel? Yeah, the Hilton. I think it is the Hilton there.
The middle of nowhere. It's right beside a bread factory or something.
Actually, the one we stay at in Sacramento is right downtown by the arena, where the Kings, the Sacramento Kings, play, the NBA team. So there's some cool things there. You know, Sacramento's a town to me that
little gem.
It leaves you wanting more. Like, I think there's so much there. Like, the weather's unbelievable. They got an unbelievable airport. They got some really cool stuff downtown. Just, you know, I'd like to just see a little bit more. I don't know what exactly more I'm looking for, but
I tell you what, you go to comedy. There's a little mall that's got a bed store and a couple other things. And go see me. They have a bike meetup every Thursday night. My first show is Thursday night at the mall. And there's 1,000 bikes, and you can hear them revving while I'm like, oh God. I'm like, oh,
that's awesome. Hey, you know what? I was in this place in Sacramento. We went out for a drink and something to eat, and all of a sudden I hear whack. And I'm like, what is that? Like the kind of something pulls you out of your chair. Well, I didn't realize that they had axe throwing in the same bar that was in the restaurant we were in. They're like, hey, go down to this place. It's got really good barbecue. And we walked in, and you know, there's TVs on, there's some game or something on. And the next thing I know, they're throwing axes behind us. So I was like, I don't know if you've ever been to an axe throwing bar before, but they seem to be picking up speed. And there's one in downtown Sacramento. So
it reminds me of being a kid and pissing off my dad when we were cutting wood.
So so you've been busy. Lots been going on. We missed a little bit of time here. We got a great guest today. I guess we could talk a little bit real quick about what's going on around the league.
We got Bret Hedican. Bret Hedican's our guest today. He'll be coming in. He's the voice. He's a color guy for the San Jose Sharks right now. Won a cup. Did he win 2 cups?
One cup in Carolina in 2006. Went to the finals 3 times. Something really interesting about Hedy. That's his nickname, Hedy. Great guy. He played 20. He's played 108 playoff games in his career. In 3 seasons, he played, I think, 23, 24. In the year they won it, he played 25. And I can tell you from playing in playoff games back, and I never played as much as he did. We got to the semifinals a couple times in Detroit, and the games I were in, those are extremely tough. We won the Turner Cup in the IHL in '96, and I can remember those like hurting to the core. And we played like 25 or 26 games. He did that 3 different times over the course of his career. Got to the finals 3 times, won it once. Played with some great players and on some great teams. And a team that a lot of our friends from up north would remember, the Canucks in '94, when they made that run to the finals and lost in 7 to the Rangers. But unbelievable skater. I would say probably one of the best skaters I've ever seen in my career. And the odd part about it is he's not even the best skater in his own house, because his wife is Christy Yamaguchi, gold medalist in the Olympics and world champion. So not too.
I think she won Dancing with the Stars as well.
Yeah, so she's a super athlete as well, Olympian gold medal, quite the family, and they got 2 great young kids, and very busy, obviously, around the household.
And an announcement. He makes an announcement today too. He's going to coach me.
Or tomorrow. He might make it tomorrow.
He might make it tomorrow. He's going to make an announcement. I guarantee. He said it would be the first one on this show to make an announcement. But hey, let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks.
I can't wait to hear what it is.
I just, you know what? It seems like there's 4 or 5 teams that are solid right now, and every other team seems to do 4 wins and then 7 losses. That seems to be what's going on in this. I don't know if you've noticed that or if you've fallen asleep and you froze up, but it seems like And they warned before the season there's going to be a lot of comebacks. Remember that? Remember they said there'd be a lot of comeback games.
Yeah.
And people didn't believe them, and it is happening.
Yeah. No, I could still hear you, even though you froze. You know, I was looking at the standings last night, just because I watched a ton of games on the weekend, and I just see some teams that are just kind of out of sorts right now. And you're right; it's it's odd. I don't know what's going on. Vegas is 11-2. No one saw that coming, although I think people would agree they'd have a better year. Boston 11-2, I think, as well, running away with it. But then you have some upstarts. You got that New Jersey. Watched them play the other night against Calgary. Unbelievable pace that they play with. And there's a bunch of other teams that are kind of trying to scratch their way back in. Yeah, Winnipeg, Detroit, the Islanders are kind of scratching their way back into the mix. But I think you're going to see a lot of divisions be really tight. I'm a little concerned about what I'm seeing in the Pacific Division right now. You got San Jose, Vancouver, Anaheim. They're plus minus in goals against. It's really, really not good. Their records aren't good. Vegas has kind of, got off to a hot start. Seattle's much better. Edmonton, again, is playing the way they play, which is must-see TV. And then the team in the Pacific that is kind of just a little bit clunky right now is Calgary, and we'll see what they do. But, even Colorado isn't off to the best start, and so let's just kind of
you'd expect Colorado not to be off to the best start after the summer they had. You would expect that, but they aren't really climbing out of it as quick as you thought they would.
Well, but they played that Western Conference juggernaut, Columbus, in Finland the last couple of games, and they won both games against them. Columbus has fallen to the bottom of the Western Conference, 3-9.
I can't even, you know how bad they are? I can't even find them in the Western Conference anymore.
They've fallen through the bottom, but another team that's fallen through the bottom, and we know now, or Ian knows now, Columbus isn't in the Western Conference anymore. They're in the East. But you know what? How about St. Louis? St. Louis is below every. They're the last place team.
Yeah. Do you think
what?
Do you think by chance it's got to do with what's his face that went to Detroit? Do you think he meant that much to the team? Why am I blanking on his name?
Perron. Yeah, Perron. I don't think you can understate his value to that team, because what St. Louis was able to do is they were pretty strong 5-on-5, but they could just absolutely kill you on the power play. And I don't know. Right now they're just having some problems, and I just didn't see them.
I think one of them is how much noise their goalie's making.
Well, we've seen teams where the goaltending position has made some noise and they've had some problems, and I don't know. And here's the other thing: don't forget that Husso, who played a lot of games in St. Louis last year, even though he was replaced in the playoffs by Bennington, is now in Detroit. And Detroit is on the rise. So it's early, but it's funny. They always say, well, if you're in the playoffs, if you're in the playoffs by US Thanksgiving, which is 2 weeks from now, you're in good shape. But you know what? I mean, it still seems like we're just kind of in the infancy of the season, right? And so I think you're going to see, like you said, a lot of comebacks. We're already seeing that multi-goal comebacks and crazy games. I think that's going to be the way it's going to go in the playoff race too. Now, a team like Vegas or Boston, if they play 500 the rest of the way, you got to pencil them for the playoffs. But what's Edmonton going to do? What's New Jersey going to do? What's Florida going to do? Or, what's Nashville doing? The other night, Vancouver had them dead to rights and had the game done on Saturday night, and they come back and beat them in overtime. So, I beat them in a shootout. So
it's not a full 60 league right now. The teams are playing 20s or 40s.
Yeah, it's really ebbing and flowing, and I'll tell you what, like Vancouver jumped out to a 3-0 lead the other night. Nashville looked like they were playing in mud. slowly kind of started ratcheting and started reeling Vancouver in, got it to 3-3, beat them in a shootout.
I tell you what, if they take hockey to 2 periods, 40 minutes, Vancouver would have no losses this year.
Yeah, they'd be really good. You imagine 40 minutes of 3-on-3 hockey? How crazy would that be?
That'd be awesome.
Or even 4-on-4. That would be unreal. And of course, the teams would love it because then they wouldn't need as many players. But
teams would love it. They would love it. Well, let's get to our interview, Jeff.
So hey,
get to our interview.
Let's get going ahead here.
This interview is brought to you by superdeker.com. Superdeker, it's a training system that will take your stick handling from being in the mud to being on ice. Superdeker.com, use slices, get yourself a little bit of a discount, and become the professional your house needs. Now let's go to Bret Hedican. Well, today's guest is a florist out of Minnesota. He's a Stanley Cup winner. He played for the USA Olympic team. I don't know if he went to the Olympics. I read it, but I couldn't figure out did you go to the Olympics?
I went to 2 Olympics. Yeah. 2006 and then 1992 was my first Olympic Games. Yeah.
Nice. 1992. Who else would have been on that team? It's Bret Hedican, by the way, everybody. Bret Hedican's here.
Well, thanks for having me, Jeff and Ian. Ian, it's great to chat with you again. Looking forward to our conversation today. But yeah, 1992, Scott LaChance, Keith Tkachuk. You see all the Tkachuk sons now in the National Hockey League. Keith was on our team. Scott Young, Ted Donato. You can see Donato was one of the kids. His son is in the NHL as well, playing for the Kraken, I believe now.
And a great pizza.
And a great pizza. But yeah, overall, we had a heck of a hockey team. In 92, we were all amateurs. We were all college kids. So we left. I was going to be a senior that year. Mm-hmm. And most of the kids that I played with on that team were either going to be a sophomore or junior or even a senior. We all left university, make the national team, not even knowing if we were going to even make the Olympic team. Kind of cutthroat that whole year. We played the Canadian national team probably 25 times that year gearing up. We played all the NHL hockey teams as an exhibition game. And then it came right down to the last week before the Olympic Games. And we were literally in Germany, and they put a sheet of paper on the wall that basically said, okay, here are the guys that are going to the Olympic Games. And then here are the guys that are get your boarding ticket over here. You're going back to New York. Yeah. It was like you spend this whole year, going for a dream. And then next thing you know, it's coming down to a piece of paper and all that work you did and whether or not you're going to go to the Olympic Games. And my name was on that list, and, a dream that I had when I was a 10-year-old kid to make the Olympic team. There I was heading to France.
So that answers my question that I was going to ask. Do they have to talk you into playing for that team because you are in your last year of college, or as soon as they ask you, like, yep, let's do it?
Yeah. It's funny. I never got asked, not once as a kid, to play for a national team. So I'm in college after my junior year. I'm down in Florida. I'm down there for spring break with a bunch of my buddies that I played hockey with. Our season was over. I had the best season of my life. Essentially, I had 21 goals as a defenseman in 45 games. I played out of my mind. I don't even know. It was like one of those years that I still don't even know how it happened.
Haven't had it yet.
No. And I get a call basically from the beach. They're like, "Hey, Bret, your mom and dad are on the phone." So I run in the house. I'm like, "Oh, what happened?" The first thing you're thinking about is like, "Oh, geez, what's this call for?" And I get on the phone. My dad's in one room. My mom's in the other from the house. That's the old days. They got to call you from different rooms. And hello. And hey, Bret, this is mom and dad. I'm like, yeah, well, what's the matter? What's going on? They're like, you won't believe this. We just got a call from the US national team. They want you to fly home tomorrow, meet the team in Boston, and fly to Russia to play in this tournament called the Pravda Cup. This is, and my mom and dad start crying on the phone. Like, this is like, it was like one of these moments like you never had as a kid. And I always wanted to be, on a national team. I never had the opportunity. And then I get this call as a junior in college.
Well, you're drunk on the beach.
And I was drunk on the beach. I basically fly home, and next thing you know, I'm in Russia, and I play 4 of the best games of my life because I knew it was like my chance.
That's
and
awesome.
At the end of that tournament, they asked me to try out for the national team that summer. I try out for the national team, and I make the team. So to answer your question, it kind of happened Quickly, I left school. Absolutely. I mean, this was a moment in time where I'm like, I got a chance to play for the national team and maybe make the Olympic team and play in the Olympic Games. So that was a dream I had when I was 10 years old. I mean, I set that compass, not even knowing how I'd get there. But when I was 10, I said, go ahead.
It's an interesting time, period in time where you look at it, where you said, I didn't know how I was going to get there. Now, you just look on the internet and you figure out the way that you can get there. Back then, you're on the beach and your parents call you. You don't know how you're going to get there. It's interesting that you had to, you just kept working and somebody found you. And that's a different time.
Yeah. I said, the only way I can make an Olympic team someday, I'm thinking about this as I'm a 10-year-old, right? Boy, I want to be an Olympian. That was it. Right. Then I really want to go to college someday. Maybe if I could somehow get to a university and play college, it would give me more runway to get an opportunity. And only one college called me. Even though I wanted to go to Duluth, St. Cloud State, I have no idea how they found me. They offered me a partial scholarship. I took it. Uh-huh. I went up to St. Cloud. I hardly played as a freshman. I was in and out of the lineup, and they recruited me as a forward in. So it was, I never played forward in my life. And they recruited me as a forward. I go up there as a forward. I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing, but I just played anyway. They were going to cut me my sophomore year, but I came back and I said, look, I can play defense. Let me try to play defense for you. And then, sophomore year, junior year kind of came together.
That's one of those things that and I'm sorry, Jeff, I interrupted you, but that must be one of these things. They might not even known that you were a defenseman. They just knew you were good, but there wasn't enough information at that time that they just didn't know. And then that just got you up front and nobody says, hey, that guy's a defenseman. What's he doing up here?
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to speak up. Yeah. And that's maybe another lesson, somebody can learn from this too, is that, there's going to be moments where people might not know your strengths and people might not know the value you could add somewhere, and sometimes you got to have some confidence in yourself to say, you know what, I know I can help this team. I know I can help this team doing what I know I can do, and just give me a chance. And I think that's kind of what happened my sophomore year.
Jeff?
I was just clearing my throat there, eat Lord Bag. But hey, so I was, you were in Vancouver for a while. I don't want to get too far in front of us, but we'll go. I read a story that the legendary Herb Brooks had some impact on you. Did you play for Herb Brooks at some point? And just kind of, for people that don't, I mean, the Miracle on Ice and the whole thing, but maybe just kind of tell us a little bit about your interaction and your time with him.
Yeah, I've got, Herb Brooks. The one university, as I mentioned, St. Cloud State University, that called me and offered me a scholarship. I would have never had the opportunity to play Division I hockey at St. Cloud if it wasn't for Herb Brooks. Herb Brooks, after coaching in the National Hockey League, well, if you reverse, after winning the gold medal in 1980, Miracle on Ice, Al Michaels makes the call. That was the moment that, my generation of guys that played on the 92 Olympic team, all of us were in that 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. All of us, to a man, said, I want to become an Olympian. Watching that moment in time as the 1980 Olympic team, all stood on the podium with their gold medals. It was like, that was it. I still get a little bit of chills on my arm thinking about it. But after that, he coached in the NHL, didn't really work out. And then he said, you know what? There's 2 universities in Minnesota, University of Duluth and then University of Minnesota, the only 2 Division I schools in Minnesota. If you go to Michigan, you got Michigan Tech, you got Michigan, you got Northern Michigan, you got Ferris State. I mean, you can go on and on. I think there's 6 or 7 Division I Western Michigan, Division I schools there, and only 2 in Minnesota. So he's like, I want to change that and add more Division I opportunities in Minnesota for Minnesota kids and more kids in general. And so because of that, I was, again, the only school that called me was St. Cloud, and because of Herb Brooks's, vision to add more Division I opportunities for kids in Minnesota, I got a chance. And so, yeah, he had a big impact in my life. But I kind of go a little bit further. Many years later, I have another Herb Brooks story in 2002. It was 2001 where I wanted to make my other Olympic team in 2002. It was going to be in Salt Lake City. And Herb Brooks was going to be the coach. And he called me in after the season in 2001. And he says, Bret, I want you to go to Germany and play in the World Championships. I want to look at you. I want to see if you're a good enough player to play on this 2002 Olympic team. I said, Herb, I'll go for you. I'd love to play for you. And I'm going to go over there and I'm going to prove it. And so I go to Germany, play in the World Championships. Another one of those moments in my life where I play out of my mind. I knew this was a chance for me to play on an Olympic team. Mm-hmm. And I ended up getting the player of the tournament for the Americans, for the defensemen. I just played my butt off because I wanted to make that 2002 team. The next summer, I go to the tryout and they get me, there's an A group, a B group, and a C group. Well, all the guys I outplayed in Germany in the World Championship, they're all in the A group and the B group, and then I'm in the C group. I go through the whole tryout, not even getting a sniff, goes all the way to the Olympic, right before the Olympic Games. I don't make the team. And I'm pretty pissed off because and I let people know that I was pissed at Herb, and I wasn't happy with him, floating me a bunch of bullshit, essentially, of him, going over to Germany. I want to see you play. I go over and I play my ass off for him, and he basically kicked it to the curb. So that same year in 2002, I'm in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm in Carolina. Before game 3, we won game 1 in Detroit, who's got a $125 million payroll. And we had a $25 million payroll in there. We were a bunch of junkyard dogs in Carolina. So we go in Detroit, we win game 1, they win game 2. It's just before game 3. I wake up from my nap, the phone rings. Hello? Is Bret there? Yeah, this is Bret. Bret, Herb Brooks here. I go, yeah, fucking right this is. Who is this? He goes, Bret, this is Herb. And I go, yeah. He goes, I just want to, tell you that you're playing great hockey. I want you to bring that Stanley Cup back to St. Paul. And I said, I appreciate that, Herb. I really appreciate the call. And, and then we hung up, and that was it. He died, I think, later that next year in a car accident. But I don't know if that was his way of just calling me to kind of clear the air, because he was a St. Paul guy. So right. I'm a St. Paul guy too. I grew up I was born in St. Paul. So was he. And I actually know his daughter and his son real well in St. Paul. But, it was just kind of his way of just kind of clearing the air with me, which was really nice.
Would he had passed away before the Olympics, right? Do you think you would have been on that Olympic team had he been coaching?
In 2002, I think he passed away after that. So he did coach in the Salt Lake Games, and then never ended up making that team. And then but I ended up making one 4 years later in 2006. That was my second team.
Where was that? Where was that Olympics?
In Torino, Italy.
Oh, that's a way better one. Salt Lake, it's just a bunch of Mormons. Way better in Italy. Just that's interesting. I love that. I love that you get calls in places that you're not expecting them from people you're not expecting. That's what's going on so far in your life.
Yeah.
Surprised it wasn't your mom and dad. Herb's on the phone. He came over.
Exactly. Hey, Bret, Herb's calling. He wants to get a hold of you. Yeah, same kind of scenario. Yeah, my parents. Yeah, they're an interesting group. I love my mom and dad.
What year were you drafted? What year were you drafted? And you were drafted by St. Louis, right?
Well, this is another dad story. Yeah, I was drafted by the Blues. It was a Sunday morning. The draft happened Friday and Saturday, like it normally does. Sunday morning, my dad wakes me up. I'm sleeping. I'm just a teenager. I'm 17 years old, 18. And he wakes me up. He says, Bret, get up. He goes, your name, it's in the paper. You were drafted by the St. Louis Blues yesterday in the 10th round. Swear to God. My dad wakes me up, tells me I was drafted by the Blues. Never got a phone call from the Blues, nothing. I was a 10th round, 198th pick. Kind of, an afterthought. Awesome. But I ended up meeting Ted Hampson, the scout that saw me play, that actually wrote my name down after he saw me play in Hastings, Minnesota. I was playing in a high school hockey game. I was playing for the North St. Paul Polars, my high school team, and we played Hastings. And he was there. I don't know if he was there to watch somebody else. and he saw me play. Because I asked him many years later, like, how the hell did you even see me play? And why did you even write my name down? And he said, I just saw you skate. I saw the way you moved. And he goes, I just jotted your name down. And then, we were in the draft, and, we had a pick, and we needed a defenseman, and threw your name in there.
Was that your strong part of playing? Was it skating? Was that what you were known for?
Yeah, it was my skating is where that gave me the ability and to be able to move up and down the ice. I could, that was my strength. Absolutely.
And a muffin of a shot.
Hey,
totally. Totally.
Hey, Hedy, I got to talk to you a little bit about that, because one of the things, it's one of the things that I really noticed when I watched you play, and we might have crossed paths when you played one of your 19 games in Peoria in the eye, but one of the things I noticed, and I just kind of curious what you think compared to today's player, but your skating was elite back then. I remember, and I think it would still be elite in today's game. That's how good a skater you were. I remember playing with Sheldon Kennedy. I was drafted with Sheldon our year before, and he was one of the most amazing skaters I ever saw. Powerful, straightforward. You had lateral movement, and I mean, for people out there watching today's game, I think you were probably a little bit bigger, stronger version of a Cale Makar. But can you confirm this? I heard in Vancouver that you guys were having races, and of course, they had the Russian Rocket, Pavel Bure then. Did you ever race him straight down the ice, and did you beat him, or did you guys ever do that? Because your skating was elite, and so I'd heard this story years ago. Can you confirm that, or is that BS?
Yeah, no, I think that year, I think in '94, we did the fastest skater, and I won, I think, our team. And then I went to the All-Star game. They brought at that time all of the different, the hardest shot from all around. Even though if you weren't an All-Star, they brought you anyway to do the skills competition. So I went there for the fastest skater because I had won that within our team in Vancouver. And I guess I may have raced Pavel a bunch of times. I mean, the beauty about Pavel, the very first practice I ever played against him, and I'll get back to the speed thing, but I have to tell a Pavel story. First practice I ever had with the Vancouver Canucks, I'm out there, and I never really played a one-on-one with him before, right? I mean, I'm coming down, and I never really seen a guy this powerful before. And yeah, maybe I had better top-end speed, and I could move maybe laterally better than Pavel, but as far as, bursts of power, of being able to thrust himself into that triangle, cut it through your stick and body of your stick, and get the puck on the other side and beat you with a quick thrust. And then he actually beat me once that way. He could have gotten around me, but he slowed down, and I caught back up to him, and then he beat me into the inside. He put the puck back in the inside to beat me back into the middle of the ice. I'm like, oh, wow, this guy is another level of hockey player. And, even to this day, I think Pavel Bure was one of the most unbelievable players I'd ever seen. I mean, Connor McDavid for me is a different, he's kind of maybe got an overall game, Connor McDavid does, but as far as his ability to beat players one-on-one in multitude of ways and beat goaltenders in any way he possibly can think of, Pavel Bure was that guy for me.
Nice.
Do you remember there was times I remember one time I was in Vancouver watching you guys play after the season was done for us anyways, and he's one of those guys, and McDavid's similar. I think McKinnon, maybe Makar to a certain degree too, but Pavel Bure could bring people out of their seats, and that is a special quality to have, because there's not many guys that have ever been able to do that. And I didn't even realize, I knew you guys played together in Vancouver. I didn't even realize until a couple of days ago that you were traded with him to Florida. That must have been kind of like, I mean, I still can't believe he got traded out of Vancouver, but that must have been something. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about your stops. So you had Vancouver, which is a crazy hockey market. Then you go to Florida, or you start in St. Louis, great hockey market. Vancouver, Florida, and Carolina, and ultimately Anaheim. You've kind of had the whole shift, and the only place you're missing is the northeast corner of Canada or United States.
Right.
Kind of talk about the hockey markets that you played in, if you don't mind, a little bit. And you can start in St. Louis or Vancouver, and just kind of the differences between what you'd see in those places and say a place like Florida or even Carolina.
Yeah, St. Louis. In my first few years for the Blues, it was interesting because I was a young rookie getting an opportunity to play. Hold on, my wife just walked in. Okay,
walked in and said, "I can beat you."
He's like, "That's enough. You get off the phone."
Yeah,
Two
but
strangers.
my Blues time was
Finish the
interesting.
roses. That's what she's saying. Finish the roses. They need to be cut.
The Blues was interesting because I was a young guy trying to, basically coming into an environment where we had a bunch of veteran players. And so and we had kind of not a real, I wouldn't say a real team atmosphere. We had, Bret Hall, who, that's documented on what type of teammate he's been. Even though, we've kind of sorted it out now. I mean, I think he's a great guy. But he was an interesting teammate. Let's just say it that way. And there was a lot of tension in that team, that locker room, for whatever reason. And it didn't work out. And I remember going up to Vancouver, and I'll kind of tell you how I got to Vancouver, because it's kind of a fun story in the fact that we went up to Vancouver with the Blues and we got our butt kicked. And I'll never forget it, because at the end of the game, I looked on the roster at the game as I'm sitting in my stall. I feel like I just got worked through a meat grinder and pounded all night long against the Canucks. And I look on the roster and I'm like, who are these guys? Trevor Linden and Bure were the only kind of names I really recognized. I mean, after that, it was like Martin Jelena, who, now I know Martin Jelena, the guy was phenomenal. Sergio Momesso, the Courtnalls, we had just a Cliff Ronning. Well, that next game, I circled it to make sure I knew that when we played the Canucks in St. Louis, that I was going to be ready for that game. So the very first shift, I go and I hit Gino Odjick. I shoulder him, and down he goes. He gets up, drops his gloves on me, and he hits me with a right. I mean, I think he broke my helmet, legitimately broke my helmet. I survived the fight somehow. Don't know how. And I think mission accomplished. At the end of that game, I must have impressed the Vancouver Canucks. Well, that year, Peter Nedved was holding out in Vancouver. And Nedved gets signed by the Blues as a restricted free agent. Well, the Vancouver Canucks said, hey, we need compensation for Peter Nedved for you signing one of our restricted free agents. And they said, well, we want Brendan Shanahan. And they're like, well, Peter Nedved, Brendan Shanahan, you can't have him, but we're going to give you Craig Janney. Well, Craig Janney says, hey, I'm not going to Vancouver. I'm going home to Boston. I'm done. I'm not going to go up there and play. Well, then at the trade deadline, Janney gets awarded back to St. Louis, and they send Jeff Brown, me, and Nathan Lafayette up to Vancouver. That's how I got traded to Vancouver. And I'll never forget that moment.
Two defensemen.
What's that?
Two defensemen. They awarded two defensemen.
Yes. Jeff Brown, unbelievable defenseman. And me and kind of Nathan Lafayette were just kind of throw-ins. And we go up there, and it was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. But even that moment I got traded, I got pulled into the office in St. Louis, and they're like, hey, Bret, we made a trade today. And I went, oh, man. And I said, they said, well, we traded you. Inside, I kind of was not relieved, because I loved playing for the Blues. They drafted me. I wanted to stay there. But it was kind of one of those things where it just wasn't working out. I didn't feel like it was meshing with me. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, where did I get traded to? And they said, the Vancouver Canucks. And I went, what? My mind just went, because I had a conversation. Here's my dad, my mom's story again. I had a conversation just weeks earlier about the Canucks. And I call my dad as I'm in the car. This is back when the cell phones were about this big and it flips open and you're
Saving
like
Private Ryan phone.
Yeah. I called my dad. I said, Dad, you're not going to believe this. I just got traded. He goes, where? I said, the Vancouver Canucks. He goes, you're kidding me. I said, no. So I go up to Vancouver, and, was I right about that team? Yeah, that team went all the way to the Stanley Cup finals that year in '94. Anyway, but Vancouver was a beautiful place. I absolutely loved playing for the Canucks. Traded with Bure to Florida. So Bure and I played 10 years together. Florida was, you go from rain in the winter to then Florida where it's sunny every day. I mean, that was a really huge contrast. And, I like Hockey Town. I grew up in Minnesota. It's cold. It's hockey season. Florida, it worked out. We had some good teams. And then I got traded to Carolina, and Carolina was terrific. I had both my daughters there. Christy and I, we had our kids. We were born in North Carolina. We had 2 Stanley Cup final teams. One that we mentioned earlier, the 02, and then the 06 team that won. And then realistically, I really retired a Carolina Hurricane when I got a call from Doug Wilson, who wanted to sign me for the Sharks because I lived in the Bay Area here. And I told him, yeah, I'd play for him. And then right at the end of the summer, he makes a trade. He gets Dan Boyle, and Brad Lukowich gets thrown into the deal, and they had too many defensemen. So the Anaheim Ducks called me, and I signed the Ducks and played my last year for the Ducks. But that's kind of a quick story of how I ended up some of these places, but a lot of fun in all the cities I played in.
Which town did you find the most pressure in off the ice? And I'm guessing we all know it's Vancouver because you just mentioned Miami, North Carolina, and Anaheim. Yeah, they're all over you in those towns.
Yeah.
Would you, if somebody you knew was drafted and going or traded into Vancouver, what advice would you give them for off the ice?
Well, maybe I was just young and dumb back in those days. I didn't really feel a ton of it is. It's the best time where you don't even kind of pay attention to it. But it was good that I as I got older, I got to learn a little bit more about the mental side of the game. So my advice would be, what I learned when I was in Van, when Mark Messier was there. And it was unbelievable watching this guy not only be a leader that he was, and Trevor Linden was a great leader as well, but Mark Messier was a different type of leader. And I was really impressed with him as well, and the way that he could bring a group together, but also what he did off the ice. He lived about a block away from me, and he had a gal that lived with him, and she would cook, and she would make sure that he had all the right food, nutrition, and he would call me a lot and say, "Hey, Hetty, come on over. I'm having dinner. We're going to have enough to make for you if you want to stop by." And I'd go over there, and this meal would be phenomenal. He'd be off of his feet, making sure that he was resting, making sure, because as you get older, you start understanding, hey, what you really need. But Messier was so good at, off ice stuff of just taking care of himself. And that's kind of when I started to learn to be even a better pro of understanding how to handle myself off the ice, and the types of nutrition and looking after myself as far as food was concerned, even though I always was good that way anyway, but it confirmed that with Messier, and just the leader he was and how he led. I mean, we'd get to a road trip and he would shut the door and get everybody off, the coaches off the bus. And he'd say, "Look, guys, put your bags upstairs. Everybody meet in the lobby bar in 15 minutes. We're going to have one beer together," and guys would go down there, and, it kind of brought the group together. And he was really good at making every guy feel important. But I think overall, I think off ice, be smart about what you do, be smart about where you go. And then most importantly, you got to be able to manage this. And what I mean by that is you have to know what your strengths are. Okay. I think so many guys come into the NHL and they want to be this, they want to be that. They got to be Cale Makar. They got to be this, that. They got to be all these different types of guys. And then they forget about the guy that they really are, of what got them there. Like for me, I knew that it was my skating. I needed to use my skating and be unbeatable one-on-one. I needed to be a great passer. I needed to be the best passer and know where I needed to get that puck and on the table of my teammate in the defensive zone as quickly as possible. Those two things I had to be great at every night. And so that's really what I learned to understand on how I had to repeat that on a daily basis. And why does that matter, Ian, as far as off ice and on ice? Is because when you're confident in who you are and what you provide a team, and you don't overcomplicate it with all these other things you think you got to be, you can be a lot more confident on the ice. You can be a lot more confident off the ice of knowing who you are. And I think those are things you start to learn as you get older.
That's great advice for anybody that doesn't even play in the NHL. What's your strengths? What do you do? And knowing who you are. We try to get ahead of ourselves too much,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
but I guess, just on the hockey side of that, Eddie, I think it's really interesting because I work with youth in Vegas now. We ran hockey schools in our hometown when I played for 11, 12 years. And one of the things that even when I was playing, there was a guy in in Vancouver by the name of Saul Miller, and he had worked with all kind. You know Saul, right? So
I do.
he's awesome, right? And
Yep.
what basically you're saying is you took everywhere you went 1 or 2 things in your mind, not 10 or 15. You know, you can do a few things, you know, a few things well, or you can do a couple things, you know, really well. And Saul was huge on 1 or 2 things, maybe 3 before the game. And it's kind of funny that your skating was elite, and I still think would be in today's game, but you always said skating and passing. And it's funny, before every game I played, I would be skating, passing, and say one other thing, like be strong one-on-one, or be strong in the corners, or hit the net with the puck, or whatever it is. So, you know, and especially in the Canadian market, which is where the question originally came from. I mean, in any market works, but up there, you just kind of, you just focused on your 1 or 2 things, and away you went, and you had a heck of a go of it in Vancouver. I mean, you guys were, you know, you were close to having 3 Stanley Cups, never mind just 1 in Vancouver. You know, it was pretty amazing.
What a special run. That town in Vancouver, that run to feel it. But Saul Miller, you know, that was one of the things I think every time I was traded somewhere, it was almost like it was meant to be. You know, obviously I told you the St. Louis story of how I got to Vancouver, but when I got to Vancouver, I met Saul Miller. I started working with Saul, and it was a game changer for me. You know, I think, you know, yeah, the skating ability, but you're right, Jeff. The one thing I thought about before every game is be unbeatable one-on-one, use my skating ability to be unbeatable one-on-one. And that was my focus, and the passing clearly. And then, you know, I would work my third thing in there before every game. Maybe I want to get my shots, every shot I had. Every time I get in the offensive zone, I want to make sure I hit the net and get a shot on goal. Or, you know, I'd change my number 3 thing up once in a while. But when I really got good at breathing and visualization and knowing what my strengths were, my game just started to slowly go this way. And I was able to slow my breathing down in big moments. And I think, you know, if I think back at the 2002 Stanley Cup and 2006, really was built off of what I learned in the 94 finals. And what I really felt tight in the Toronto series for whatever reason. Round 1, round 2, I felt great. Round 3, I got really tight, and I felt it in my game. I didn't play with confidence, and it held me back. And I actually think that maybe Pat Quinn might have been thinking about pulling me out for the Stanley Cup finals, but he left me in there. And then when I got to the Stanley Cup finals, I felt unbelievable again. I felt loose. I played great for 6 games, but then before game 7, I felt tight again because I'd never been in this big moment before in my life. And I didn't know how to handle it mentally. I didn't know how to handle it with my body and breathing and visualization and all that stuff. So I think the 02 run, the 06 run was really predicated on what I learned and how to deal with pressure, working with Saul Miller and knowing how to slow down a moment and then how to live in the moment, right? Not get ahead of it, not get behind it, but just be here, be present. And I think, you know, I really am thankful for the time in Vancouver, not only for the run in 94, the people I met, Pat Quinn, being coached by him and him just helping me get my confidence back. But then, you know, meeting a guy like Saul, that really helped me, you know, one day win a cup.
Hey, I wanted to just one more touch on Saul. One more thing. Did he ever give you the satellite dish? So I remember talking to him one time, and he said, the mind is like a satellite dish. It'll scan the skies for every channel, and it'll just mess up. It'll just keep scanning unless you take it over and put it on your channel. And basically what you did is you put it on your channel. And even when the moment was really big and you weren't maybe feeling the way that you had in previous games or rounds, because you're not going to feel the same way every night out there, unfortunately, you were still able to channel what you had leaned on and and built into habit and still be able to get the job done. And it's pretty amazing. But I'll never forget Sal saying the mind's like a satellite dish. And yeah. I think that goes for everybody out there. With you can settle the mind down, put it on one channel. And I say, put it on the empowerment channel. You know, that's kind of what Sal's saying. Put it something that empowers you. I think it helps relax us all. And I don't know if he ever shared that with you, but he shared it with me. I thought it was amazing. And I use it to this day. You share it with all the kids that I work with in youth hockey.
Keep sharing it. I think I use I tell kids right along that exact same line, on Saul's guidance, really, if you're watching TV and you don't like the channel that you're watching, what do? You pick up the remote and you change the channel, and the more reps you can do and the more breathing that you can do and more visualization, I just almost feel it's a 1-to-1 ratio. The one ratio of rep that you go out and you do a practice, take a shot, that's a rep. That's a physical rep. You almost have to do 1-to-1. You have to, at times during every day, you have to do some mental reps to be able to visualize and be able to breathe. So when you get into those moments, you can get back into that power channel. You can change when the brain starts to race and you start to think about the negative things. You got to pick up the channel and you got to turn it back to your power channel and get back to the things that and you can rely upon to get you through it and get you out of the future of what you don't know what might happen. Right, it gets you right back into the moment.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How did you not go into, and it's not necessarily a coach or assistant coach, but it's the way you talk. It's not, it's, why are you, I don't know why are you not like coaching instead of you're on the air in San Jose, and I'm guessing it's family life. It's easier on the family life, but the way you're able to talk to someone. Have you ever read the book Atomic Habits?
No, I'll have to check it out.
It's an interesting, but you have some of that style to you. So you're a motivator. Does this come from your was it jiu-jitsu that you do? Is that?
I do kung fu.
You do kung fu. Oh my goodness. I had no idea that even existed anymore. And did you do that always, or is that something that started out later on in life?
It started out probably the last 5 years.
By the way, I just made you sound like you're 95.
Pretty much. I get those probably 95 in dog years, right? I mean, the way the NHL treats you, those are dog years, man. They take its toll on your body, but I feel good. My body feels great. The kung fu I started about 5 years ago, and it's awesome, mind and body. But no, I appreciate that, Ian, saying that about coaching. I think I would love to coach. Matter of fact, Rod Brindamore, one of my best friends, coaching Carolina. We've had conversations every year for the last 4 years about me going there and helping them. And I would absolutely cherish the moment to coach with Rod, be his assistant, or be the guy that's going to move the pucks in the corner for him. I don't care. Just put me around him and put me with him again. Cause we had such a friendship and a bond in Carolina. And I knew we'd win with him. I knew in 2002, Ronnie Francis took us to where he needed to. But I knew when Ronnie retired that Roddy'd be that guy and we'd have the right leadership group and we'd win. I knew it. I signed a 6-year contract after the 2002 finals because I knew we would win. 4 years later, we win together, me and Roddy and our group. But I would love to coach because I think there's a lot of things in my failures that I had to learn. There's a lot of things I learned in training through my years of failure of the way I trained that failed my body. And then eventually I had to learn to get me to a place where my body was going to be able to play, 25 playoff games at the end of the year and win a cup, right? I was working towards that end of the year. How am I going to be ready to win a cup? Because I think when you get to a Stanley Cup final and you lose, or you don't even make the playoffs, you better ask yourself, like, what are the things that I need to do? Like self-assess. Why didn't I make it to the playoffs this year? If I'm a team, if I'm a general manager, or if I'm a coach, or if I'm a player on that team, you got to ask yourself some hard questions. Now, if you get to the Stanley Cup finals or in the playoffs and you lose, why did you lose? Were the conditioning not the right? It was your mental side not right. And I think those are the things I think I consistently did as a player that allowed me to give me all those tools. I think that I can relate to people, particularly in the game.
Yeah, you definitely got it. I'd be careful though. Toronto might call.
Oh man!
I want to
talk about environment, right? That's a tough environment to play in.
Yeah.
Hey, so Hedy, I think Ian asked a great question about why not coaching, and obviously you have a lot of passion for that. You guys do a great job on TV and in San Jose and all that, because obviously you've seen a lot of you over the last bunch of years in the West Coast and playing the nights. We watching from Vegas, but the question I have is something where, it seems like you still have that fire there to go and be a part of the game, maybe in a different avenue than you have been. Talk for a minute, if you would, about when you left the game and, the mental side of, hey, this is it. Now I got to go do something else. And Ian and I have talked about this before, and we talked about it with Marco Stern. We had him on a few weeks ago, but tell us mentally, like some of the gymnastics, if there were any that you kind of went through or you go through to kind of, hey, to make sure that you're centered, but also doing things that empower you and you like to do. Obviously, coaching might be one of them. So how does all this, since you left the game, how do you manage this?
Yeah, Jeff, I was ready to retire, but this is a really interesting question, because I think I don't care how ready you are to retire from a National Hockey League or being a professional athlete, you're never really ready. Even though I was ready, you're never ready. And I think as you get away from being a pro athlete and obviously the money is no longer there. I mean, that faucet gets shut off, and now you're just, the money that you earned is in your little pool there. And now you're like, okay, now what next? And I think the anxiety of not going to the rink every day, the anxiety of, holy cow, I'm just a normal human being now, and what am I going to do with my life? I think, and even though, like I said, I was ready to do for that next phase, boy, it comes down on you heavy. And I think, for players, I think there should be some more help out there for professional athletes and people that are transitioning out of one career into another, because I think that there's some really tough moments in there. But, I think at one point, you self-assess and you say, hey, what am I going to do next? Eventually I went back to school. After leaving my junior year to make the Olympic team and never went back, I turned professional after the Olympics. I never got my degree. So I decided to go back to college and finish. So I have my college degree. And then, the last couple of years, I started a business that I'm going to launch probably in the next day or two. I'll have to show it to you. I'll have to get my bag that I can show to you.
Absolutely.
But it's a backpack company, and it's with patches. So patches go on a backpack, and it's going to be called HediGear.com. And I'll have to send you guys a backpack.
That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
we will not say no to that. We are a small time.
Usually we're trying to give stuff to people to come on, but if you're going to give us some stuff, we'll have you on every 3 or 4 weeks. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm going to get you guys one of my bags and some patches on it. But I think,
if you want, we're not huge, but we will definitely we'll put an advertisement in every week for you if you want. It's just you give us all the information that you need, and we'll just we'll be a little bit of a social media influence for you. 10-4, man. I think that'd be great, and I think you guys will love. Check out my website. I'll make it live here probably today or tomorrow. I love it. Thanks for taking time for us.
Oh yeah. Man, I appreciate having. I know it took us a little time to get together, but anytime I'd love to be on with you guys. It'd be great.
It's funny. Getting guests is so interesting. You have to kind of bug. You're like, hey, but you say feel bad at the same time. Hey, how are you today? Hi, how are you? So it's pretty funny. So I really appreciate you coming on. We'll just kind of get to the last minutes of here and get you going, because I know you have got a busy day. Jeff has got to go look outside and see the wind fly by as his plane doesn't leave, and I got to take the dogs for a walk in the rain and pick up poop and then dry them off. So it's
yeah, dry your dog after raining.
Oh, so good. I'm like, great. Slow my day down a little bit more.
Exactly.
So I got a question for you. What, you end up marrying America's sweetheart, and you end up in People Magazine, on the cover of People Magazine and all that. How does that happen? Because they made you sound like a brute, like you just came busting through the door and said, how does a hockey player deal with that different media spotlight? How did you do with it?
I really didn't do with it that much. I think I always let Christy kind of be that America's sweetheart and who she was and who she is as far as a gold medalist and, Dancing with the Stars champion and all the things that she's done, philanthropically here in the Bay Area. And I'm okay just being me. I think being a Midwestern guy, I think I always kind of relate to my parents. I've brought them up a lot today. And I think those are the two that were hardworking. My mom came from a family of 12. She was the third one of 12. And then my dad came from a family. And matter of fact, my mom and dad they grew up on the same block, in the same square block. There was 100 kids in one square block in St. Paul.
No way.
Yeah, 100.
4 families.
Yeah, 4 families. So I think that made me, I don't know, it gave me the humility to know that, you just be you, I think that's the main thing for Christy and me. I think I keep letting her be her and be that gold medalist and all the things that she's accomplished in her life, which is terrific. I'm a board member on the Always Dream Foundation, which has been a lot of fun to kind of give back to the community.
Tell us a little bit about that foundation you guys have.
Yeah, we really support early childhood literacy. I think when you think about a kid, and I always reference this kind of analogy, is that when you have a skyscraper that's leaning, there's one in San Francisco that leans, and it's not because of the foundation. The company that built that skyscraper has built 1,200 skyscrapers, right? And they're probably the same foundation. The problem is that this one that's in San Francisco that's leaning, it's not rooted in bedrock. Right. It's not anchored into bedrock to make it stand upright. And for me, I think literacy with kids is that anchor into bedrock. It gives them the opportunity to learn how to read and then read to learn to read. And then they go on and move and do all their dreams that they want to do. And I think the biggest thing that our foundation does, Always Dream, is we have a book coach that is between the school and the family. And we teach the family how to sit with a child and read at home. And we send them text messages to remind them to ask questions on how to read. We do it in bilingual, Spanish and English. But a lot of these families never had education as far as learning how to teach a kid how to read and the love of reading. And we do it on a digital tablet, which gives us the opportunity to see how many times they're opening it per week. And if they need any help, if they're not opening it, how can we interject and how can we help them? So what we see is these kids start to learn to love to read with their families, and it bridges that gap between the school and the family, and it just rises their level of literacy, which is really the foundation. It's the bedrock that allows a kid to have success.
Absolutely. Yeah. Reading is very important. Jeff, you were part of a reading thing, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. We were Wade Flaherty. I don't know if you probably played against Flats. I don't know if you were ever on the same team with Flats as goalie coach, assistant coach up in Winnipeg there with the Jets. Yeah. But Wade and I did Ian loves to give us a hard time about this, but we did a North Coast for the libraries, North Coast libraries up where we grew up in Northern British Columbia on a read. It was a great thing to be a part of. And I agree. I mean, reading is it's a life skill. It's like swimming. Once you know how to do it, I think, it turns out really well for you and good for you guys. I don't have a question about. I'm
going to interrupt. I got to tell you this story, Bret. Jeff.
I was trying to get away from this, Eddie. I was trying to find the best segue I could before he took me down.
Jeff and Wade have a poster where they say always wear a helmet, and they're on bikes on ice and they're holding the helmets.
That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign.
Well, that's some good, School District 88, Ian and I, Wade, all grew up, some good education. We never thought about it at the time, putting them on, but I will not get on a bike without a helmet these days. Yeah. Mostly because of Ian, but yeah.
Well, you got to protect that melon of yours, Jeff. You got to make sure that baby's protected.
That's right. Hey,
I love that you guys started a foundation after did you start it during your career or did you start it after your career?
Christy started the foundation. I believe it was 1995 is when she started the foundation, Always Dream. And so it's been whatever year we are now. It's been a long time she's been giving back. So it's she's made a big impact in this community. We help some schools in Hawaii and some schools in Arizona as well. But basically this Bay Area, we've helped a lot of kids in this area, which has been a lot of fun to kind of
Awesome.
be part of giving back, making the world a little bit better.
How do you guys manage all your time? And for those of you that were, I don't know, I know you got to go here in a few minutes, but so Christy Yamaguchi is Hetty's wife, and she was the 1992 gold medalist, along with many other world championship titles to go along with it. And so you guys are kind of like a power couple, but how do you guys have so much time? Because she's got her thing that she was the best of the best at. You got your thing where you were the best of the best, and now you got kids too. So how do you guys arrange all your time? Because it's not what you take, it's what you leave, and you guys are doing such a good job in so many areas, but there's only so much time and there's only two of you. How do you manage everything?
Well, I think, by not coaching, it's given me a chance, even though doing the broadcasting has, I am gone. The good news about COVID is that I didn't have to travel for the last 2.5, years, but now we're kind of traveling again. But, on non-game days, I don't have to go down there. As far as Christy, that's her main job is to every day she's on calls with the foundation, and she's, that's where she spends a lot of her time. But, her number one priority is the kids. I mean, she really is a mom, and she loves being a mom. I think, our daughters, we have two girls. One just went off to UCLA, freshman in college. She was just back here on the weekend, which is great to see her for the first time after dropping her off at school. That's always a tough drop-off moment for any parent. I mean, any parent listening right now knows how tough that one time where you drop them off college for the first time. It's like, oh, that hurts the heart. But I think we've always just tried to be us, be normal people with our kids, and we've tried to make them humble. I hope they've been humble, knowing that they have to work for everything that they get in life. And now it's really up to them to see what they become. I'm excited about what they become. I don't know what they're going to become. I think my daughter's into acting and some performing arts. My older one, my younger one's only a junior in high school, still figuring it out. But I'm excited to see what they turn out to be. But I think we're both parents, number one. I think we've left that as a priority to us, and then all these other things kind of keep us busy. Our active minds keep us busy to do something.
Love it.
Right on.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for dropping by. I do see you getting into coaching. I really do. I hate to tell you, but I got a feeling somebody's going to get pushed around in Carolina. And his name's Rod Brindamore, and Bret Hedican's going to push him in. Look, let's do some sit-ups together. That's what you guys are going to say.
He's still in great shape, man. Oh. I just saw him the other day, man. That guy's still shredded.
I love it. Good for him, because he never knows. The salary cap is it's not. He might have to jump in and play, so he's got to be prepared.
Yeah.
Tell us about your bags that are coming out online, and give us the website.
Okay. Website is Hedi, as in Hedi, like my last name. The guys called me Hedi, HediGear.com. And so I'm making backpacks that have Velcro on all of the sides. And you can buy about 6 different types of backpacks on my website, and you'll be able to buy patches as well. So I just kind of, what we talked about today, guys, is really kind of how this got started, and that moments in our life, make us who we are. And I think there's a few moments in your guys' life that I'm sure
absolutely
that you'd want to have on your backpack. Like, this one here was the 94 team. And every time I see this patch, it's the first time that I really was part of a team that really was selfless, and every guy was incredible. And particularly Pat Quinn led the way. Love that. My St. Cloud State. This is, I better take this one off. This is probably not one I should have on there. But this one here is the Stanley Cup 106. My Kung Fu patch is here. Stanley Cup and some others. But these are
just
this one
here. Question for you. So how are they as part of the company making the patches?
Yeah. So I have patches that I make, and then patches I get from licensed like rock and roll patches. I'll have NHL. I'll have Major League Soccer. I'll have NBA.
We're gonna have to put our logo in there. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
put our logo in there.
I'd love to have your logo. I'd love to make patches for you guys. But the great thing is it's a lot of fun. I think people want to individualize and personalize their backpacks and water
Absolutely.
bottles and laptops and all that kind of stuff today. But these backpacks give kids and people, not even kids, like adults, the opportunity to personalize their backpack.
That's awesome. Good for you, man. I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that you just took time out and dropped by and had a chat with us, because you didn't need, you guys, all the guys that drop by and do these don't have to, and you do. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for being one of those people that dropped by and said hi. And Jeff finally got to ask you that question about the Rocket. Did you beat the Rocket?
I've been sitting on that heavy for about 20 years because I used to see those guys up in golf tournaments in Penticton, in the summer, or Kelowna. I'd see him, and I'd heard that I knew you were a great skater, but I was thought no one was faster than Pavel. Then I'd heard that you might have beat him in a race. So thanks for answering that.
We got to ask Tim Hunter once about grabbing onto guys with one hand and then punching them in the face with the other. So that was awesome too.
Hunts is a great guy, man. I love Tim Hunter.
Yeah, so good.
Great. Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you. And the website opens tomorrow. Hedibag.com.
Hedigear.com.
Sorry. I just wanted to put my name in it. Hedeg.
That's how quick you are, brother. I love it.
Appreciate you, my friend.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Jeff and Ian,
Thanks,
really great to see you guys. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Just so much information. Such a good guy. Congratulations on his new business coming out tomorrow. Go to his website, hedigear.com. Check it out. Get yourself a backpack. Make your life visible. It's kind of like social media, but on you. That's kind of what it's like.
Yeah, no, it's you know what? I think Hedi, or HEDIGEAR.com. Hedi's awesome, and he's a couple years younger than we are. Well,
I'm the same age as him, believe it or not.
I was going to say, I know you're way younger than I am, but there's the guy that is been there, done that, and he's still doing it, and he's pushing the edges out. And I mean, he's motivating. If you're not motivated after listening or talking with Bret Hedican, and he shows why he was able, we didn't even talk about it, I don't think, during the interview, but he played over 1,000 games in the NHL. Amazing, and a great defenseman who I still think could play today with the way he moves. I'd like to see, like, Kel McCarr's really taken kind of a lateral movement in the game and really pushed out the edges on defensemen and players moving laterally. I think Hedi could have done that too. That's how great a skater he was. He was, north south as fast as anybody, and just would glide out there. And he's a big guy, 6'2", 6'3". So, and we didn't even talk about that. The guy played over 1,000 games, Stanley Cup winner, and an Olympian. Did it all, and then he married America's sweetheart, Christina Maguchi. So good for him.
He's done okay.
Yeah, it's funny.
Guy's a forerunner.
I didn't get a chance to say this to him either. Most most players, hockey players, overmarry, but he way overmarried. Yeah. Like he's got the crown. Like, I mean, he's the crown jewel. I mean, he did it up the best. So
you can't just say that to a guy. How'd you do that?
I mean, he wasn't chopped liver. I mean, he's done pretty darn well for himself, but it's fun. He'll probably have a little chuckle at it if he ever listens, because hockey players like to give it to each other. And we're just chirping him a little bit, but
just can't have him be all roses like he had behind him.
Yeah, he even had the proper accompaniment behind him with the flowers this morning.
Like he just gotten off the ice after a big figure skate. We want to thank him for coming on. It's as we say, we have to bug these guys a little bit, and they all want to come on, but you just kind of, it's a podcast. So, and I love that they come on, and I love that you get to do it with me. So, you got any shout outs this week?
Yeah, I got a shout out that I went back a couple weeks ago, and the team's kind of gone on a little bit of a skid since they did this. But I've got a shout out to the Ottawa Senators and Daniel Alfredson. They honored him a couple weeks ago, and I forgot to do that shout out then. He is a Detroit alumni with me too. He doesn't know that, but I do. But he made his name in and really put Ottawa on the map. And they're talking about selling that team now, but one of the stipulations is they want to keep the team in Ottawa, which I think is great. They've got these young guys there. They're an exciting team. They hit a little bump in the road. They got to put the stuff back in the back of the pickup again. It kind of fell out over the last 5 or 6 games. But shout out to Daniel Alfredson and the Ottawa Senators. And here's hoping that they continue their ascent in the league, because they've got some great young stars there.
I tell you what, if Ryan Reynolds ends up buying that team, I might end up becoming an Ottawa Senators fan.
I thought you were going to say like an assistant coach or something.
No, that's what you're going to say. Yeah, that's what they want.
All you actors are the same.
Here's what I need you guys to do: win. I'll do my Bruce Boudreau. Hey guys, when you get on the ice, have some fun.
Well, and you know what's kind of funny? I want one other shout out, because the people are watching on video over your back of your shoulder today is the Crest, which was sponsored by Sharples Equipment, my dad's company, back up in the great Pacific Northwest. My brother Doug is off on the right side. I think he cut his head off, but he's got that beautiful kind of sweater.
You recognize the sweater? I couldn't see his face, and you're like, I think that's Doug.
I think it is, and I'm pretty sure my grandma knit that for him. That's how great she was. But anyways, shout out to Lord Bag for putting the Sharples Equipment and a bunch of guys that I know we know. Is that your team? Are you in that picture?
That's me right there. Right there. Right.
Yeah. So you were the
Kevin Monteith. That's Kevin Monteith. You remember Kevin?
Yeah.
Kevin Monteith. Sandy Ludit, Corey Albright, Freddie Wilson. I don't know. Bunch of guys. I can't remember.
I love it. So I should have got on Dad though. He got the unis, but he didn't get the accompanying socks with it. So
nobody had socks back then. Now kids got matching tracksuits. Nobody had matching.
Can I tell you a funny story before?
I don't know.
Shut up. Yeah. I know we were going to keep this tight, but anyways, one of my guys I fly with, his son plays college university hockey back on the East Coast, and they have a guy on the team that's take like the player representative, so he helps organize like these guys aren't Michigan or University of Denver, they're Div 2, but anyways, he helps organize, like get the uniforms and talks to the company that makes uniforms and works with the university. Anyways, he's taken over for the guy that used to order the uniforms. And I was talking to Dad, and he says, it's just a mess. They said the most players they've ever rostered is 22 or 23 on the team. Well, the guy before him bought 3 sets of 40 uniforms. I'm like, did he have stock in the uniform company? Do they have 120 uniforms?
You know what? That sounds like it. That would sound like it was a fuck off as he was walking out the door. Yeah, you think that's cool? Here's 180 uniforms.
Yeah, so good luck paying for that. So he's been on the phone. I think it's with Valero Uniforms. So Valero Uniforms is supposed to be working with them. So a little shout out to Valero Uniforms too. But Nathan has got to
really
figure out what to do. Hey, they needed they didn't quite need that many uniforms, but they got 120 or 100.
They're expecting some injuries.
120 uniforms.
They're expecting a couple injuries this year.
The NHL teams don't even have 120 uniforms with God. All 3. Like, I mean, they might have 100 or maybe 80 or 90. But anyways, that's kind of funny. That's my little story about
good story.
Uniforms. So anyways, your floor, Lord Bag. That's all I got for this week and shout outs.
Headed out to Richmond, Virginia this week, going to the Sandman Comedy Club for 5 shows. Gonna pop into Virginia Beach for a day, check out the house, and then head over. So that's what's going on with me this week. Loved all.
Loved all.